terms of that.
Sorry if I pile on, but one of the things that we're doing too is we talk about transparency with our managers and what we're looking for and what we do. The other thing that we do with our clients is give them more transparency. We take them whenever they can to see managers with us to see how we go through the process. It's not giving them 27,000 pages worth of stuff that they have to analyze. It's trying to understand where, how does that go? My dad always said, don't criticize someone until you've walked a mile in their shoe, because now you're a mile away and you have their shoes. So if you just put yourself in your client's shoes, what pressures are they? What kind of pressures do they have? We had one the other day where a client wants to see every month just a simple report that we can give him on their 5 hedge funds that we put together for them, and some of the consultants came up and said, well, we don't want to do that. That's a lot of work. I said, I can just put myself in that guy's spot every day when the CFO comes to him and says, what are our hedge funds doing? And you don't know, but at least engage him, give him what he needs to fight his battles.
Thank you very much. I think we have several minutes for a few questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll bring you the microphone. We've got one in the middle. Yes, and thank you. Please identify yourself as well. Thanks.
I'm Raman from Rosenblatt Securities. I would like to ask the panel.
We can't hear you.
The mic's not on.
Just one moment, please.
Hi, Finn Upham, Clarion Capital. I have a question about investing time horizons. It seems that one of the problems with hedge funds over the last year and a half is the incredible need for liquidity and the immediate need for capital and redemptions that happen in a short period of time. The two stories I've heard around this is one, we need to increase liquidity, which a number of you on the panel discussed, whether that's a mistake or not a mistake. And number two is sort of the idea that a manager maybe can't do his job well if he or she cannot have a long time horizon over which to prove the record. So in balancing those two views, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how the industry moving forward will sort of come to a resolution.
Anybody, Jaeson?
Yeah. Yes, to your question. You have to, when you're looking at the manager and everything he's doing, if he's doing a credit opportunities fund and he's giving you, semi-monthly liquidity, you just know that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So you've got to give him enough rope, if you will, or enough redemption time in order to allow them to do their job. Personally, as Michael said, we're very excited about the credit opportunities, but you not only have to, so as an investor, an intermediary, as a consultant, what we do is look at the manager, see if it makes sense. If he wants a 3-year lock and everything else checks out, I would be fine with that, as long as the client has a 3-year time horizon. Now, as I understand, if you work with more endowments or public plans, they have different time horizons, different cash needs. So you have to be able to kind of, you won't go into a credit opportunities with monthly liquidity if your client may or may not need monthly liquidity. Maybe they need it every 2 months. You just have to kind of match the two and see if it makes sense.
Anybody else care to comment?
I mean, this is probably pretty obvious to everybody in this room, but there's really a conflict between people staying in the fund and people coming in or going out of the fund all the time. There's a transactions cost that's being borne by the people that remain in the fund, and this has been extant in the mutual fund industry since the beginning of time, and we try to handle it in lots of different ways. In my opinion, the best way of shifting the responsibility to those that are imposing the cost is by having transactions fees built into the fund. And the more you demand liquidity, the higher the fee has to be. So you can set it up so the incentives are right, and by the same token, from time to time you may need a gate because there's locking liquidity in the underlying securities. It has to be set up again so the incentives are aligned, so the manager is not incented to just lock the gates and then collect fees for as long as they want. I think those can be handled with contracts without having to specify every possible scenario, but contracts where you charge them fees appropriately for their imposing transactions costs and everyone else.
One more question?
Yep, I'm Raman with Rosenblatt Securities. What I would like to know is the objection here, or is there an objection to the way SEC has conducted itself, or any outside evaluation of what's going on within these firms? I don't know if I'm making myself clear
I'm
here.
sorry, could you hold the microphone a little closer, perhaps?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, beautiful.
What I'm confused about is, I've heard that transparency is not so easy, or it's not practical. We have also had a lot of discussion about how ineffective SEC has been in regulating this industry. So given those two thoughts, I want to know whether the complaint is against the way in which SEC has conducted business, or against any kind of outside objective evaluation of what the fund is doing.
So is it an SEC problem, or
I
outside, the
don't-
objectives are
I-
conflicting?
Yes.
Next. No, I'd like to try to give that a shot. I don't, just from what I know about the SEC, I don't think they're structurally able to provide what I think a lot of people want them to provide. However, on the other hand, as the industry has matured, we're getting a lot more capable people in these pension plans. You also have fund of funds. You also have consultants now that have become increasingly more sophisticated. So I believe that a lot of the regulatory part is being conducted by the fund of funds and hedge funds. Now, going back to my comment on performance, if you look at something like Madoff, my sense is a lot of times that allocation was untouchable, regardless of what people were bringing up in-house, just because of the performance and the exclusivity and all that.
Guys, one more question from the panel.
Yeah, so here's my question. You mentioned gates, Mark. If a firm put up a gate or designated investments as a way to solve for a liquidity constraint that they were under, did they impair their reputation permanently?
I think there was a perception before any firm had imposed a gate that it would materially impair their reputation forever. And I think we were one of the first firms that were hit by major redemption requests because we were in the quant liquidity crunch, which was one of the first things that happened in this period. And we were very, very concerned about that, and for that reason, we never imposed any gates. Having said that, now it's no longer a stigma. It's so common. I think it's so the equilibrium has changed, but it seems to be people are moving now away from gates on the fund to gates on the investor. I'm not sure that's a good solution, but that's a way of evolving it so that you can have gates and there's not as much of a stigma associated with it.
It had been abused and it had been used very wisely, so it kind of depends.
I'd say the same thing. It depends on who used it. If a managed futures guy imposed gates and he could get daily liquidity, you have to wonder why.
Okay, thank you very much. Wonderful discussion, and see you soon. Thank you.